little boy from the north of France, a controversial American podcaster, and the President and First Lady of France. On the face of it, nothing really ties these four individuals together, apart from an unprecedented multi-million-dollar lawsuit over allegations that not everything is exactly as it seems. Or at least, that's how the story goes. In July of this year, the sitting president of France and his wife, the First Lady, launched a defamation lawsuit against Candace Owens. In a nutshell, the Macrons are suing Candace for defamation, defamation by implication, and false light. It's basically what I like to call defamation light, if you followed my Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni coverage, but it's effectively a lesser form of defamation. You have spread falsehoods about someone that has painted them or cast them in a false light, and these falsehoods would be objectionable to any reasonable person. The main difference between it and defamation is that with defamation, you have to prove harm to reputation, whereas with false light, the emotional distress caused to the plaintiff should suffice. While this entire case centers upon the identity theft claim, there are other claims that the Macrons are suing Candace for. Perpetrating violence against anyone who investigates or reports on the Macrons, committing incest, participating in government mind control programs, faking the death of Brigitte's first husband, and the commission of a crime on the part of Brigitte when she chose to marry her husband.
I guess my question is, what is everybody so afraid of? It certainly cannot be a lie.
When it comes to defamation, as with any other cause of action in the law, there are certain elements that have to be satisfied. Each and every one of them. Number one, the statement made must be a statement of fact, capable of being proven as true or false. It is not a gray area. It is not an opinion. For example, the claim that Brigitte Macron is a man. That is a statement of fact. That is not an opinion. It cannot be dressed up as an opinion. And I don't believe Candace is pretending that it is her opinion. She has claimed that she believes that fact to be true. Other claims in this lawsuit aren't as black and white, which the law rarely is. It is a gray area, and lawyers have quite a bit of room to argue and convince the jury. For instance, even though I'm comparing apples and oranges here because I'm going to reference criminal cases with a much higher standard of proof, being beyond a reasonable doubt, the Casey Anthony case. I was a kid when that was going on, but I later studied it as a young law student. Her lawyer managed to instill doubt, reasonable doubt, in the minds of the jury, so much so that they chose to acquit her. O.J. Simpson is another one that comes to mind. And so examples of these claims where both lawyers, both sides, have a lot of room to try to sway the jury in their favor are, let's take the incest claim. Let's listen to what Candace actually had to say.
I don't know about how you guys are feeling right now, but I'm starting to get a little icky feeling. It's all starting to feel a bit, I don't know, incestuous to me, you know? Like, why does she know so much and why is he like more into her family? I don't know, it's very weird.
That does not sound like a statement of fact. She didn't say they have or they are committing incest. She said, it's feeling that way to me. So it's subjective, which opens up the defense of opinion to her. It might not even satisfy the very first element of defamation, being that it is not a statement of fact. She then goes on to say this at the very end in the epilogue episode.
It is my instinct. Yes, I agree with those of you that are commenting right now that we are looking potentially at incest. That is what in my gut feels it has to be a secret so big.
It's how she feels. It's subjective rather than a statement of fact. And it's the same gray area with the MK Ultra claim. So to break it all down, because Candace does reference the MK Ultra program or government mind control programs quite a few times in the series, her main message every time she brought it up was she saw parallels, similarities between the way Emmanuel Macron was raised and these government programs, namely the isolation. Emmanuel, by his own admission, grew up quite isolated. He was really with his grandmother the entire time, didn't really have many friends. But then it gets even trickier for the Macrons, because Candace goes on to reference this 2017 article published by the Wall Street Journal. The calculated rise of France's Emmanuel Macron, French presidential candidate, skipped electoral politics, instead connecting with the elite and acquiring market experience. At stake, the future of Europe. At the height of the financial crisis, Rothschild and Company assigned one of its veteran bankers to groom a new hire named Emmanuel Macron. Mr. Macron had no experience in banking. Instead, he had powerful mentors who had recommended him to Rothschild as a danseur mondain, literally high society dancer, who could drum up business. I'm going to stop there in the interest of time, but it sounds pretty similar to what Candace claimed about Emmanuel Macron in her series Becoming Brigitte. And so why this becomes a problem for the Macrons is Candace can claim that it is her opinion based on proper material, being this 2017 investigative piece by the Wall Street Journal, which as far as we know has not been legally challenged by the Macrons to date, which is a defense to defamation. Secondly, the statement must have been published, easily satisfied in this case. Thirdly, the plaintiff must have been identified, once again, satisfied in this case. Fourth, has the statement harmed the plaintiff's reputation? Now, when it comes to defamation per se, harm is presumed, and defamation per se can be defined as any statement that claims a plaintiff has committed a crime of moral turpitude, something that is so obscene, so reprehensible, that harm to the reputation is just automatically presumed to have happened. The ultimate question is, did Candace Owens personally sway the opinions of the people the Macrons associate with and work with, and the citizens of France, enough to damage the reputation of the Macrons? Candace, on her part, can provide evidence that their reputation was already down, was already taking a hit, let's say due to the questionable way in which their relationship started. And so one can argue it's not as though their reputation was stellar to begin with. And the final element, particular to the case of public figures, was the statement made with actual malice. First of all, it's very important to define what actual malice is, because it is easy to take away the word malice and misunderstand it to mean ill will, malicious intent, which it is not. Legally, actual malice takes place when a defendant, being Candace in this instance, knowingly publishes a false statement or has a reckless disregard for the truth or falsity of the relevant statement. So, in plain English, they couldn't care less. What the Macrons argue is that Candace was put on notice, that she cherry-picked what to share with the audience because they actually refuted all of her allegations and provided her with evidence, enough evidence to put her on notice, meaning, here's the truth. Here's the undeniable truth. You now know that the statements you are publishing are false. So this is what they're arguing. Candace, for her part, denies all of this and says that whatever evidence they have provided simply hasn't swayed her. Some of this evidence has been included in this lawsuit, being the pictures from Brigitte's past and this newspaper clipping announcing the birth of one Brigitte Trognon in April of 1953. It is worth noting that birthing children is presumably incredibly cogent evidence in favor of Brigitte. But essentially, in order to get over the actual malice threshold, the Macrons need to demonstrate that Candace was made aware of the truth and deliberately chose to ignore it, which is effectively what they are arguing. Candace is arguing, not good enough. The thing about actual malice is it's all about the defendant's state of mind. Candace, on her part, even though the burden is not on her, could argue that the evidence they provided her simply did not sway her, and that she proceeded to make these claims fully believing them to be true. Is that reasonable? That will be a question for the jury to determine once they've seen the evidence from both sides. It's worth mentioning that a reckless disregard for the truth is baked into false light as well. And one final thing to remember is that while Brigitte successfully sued Natasha and Amandine in the first instance, it was overturned on appeal, as I mentioned. Why? Because the defendants were found to have acted in good faith, which basically means, according to the French civil law standard, there was no actual malice. So, with these elements I just mentioned, the onus of proof, meaning the responsibility of proving each and every claim and element, falls upon the Macrons in this instance. However, when it comes to the defenses, which I believe Candace primarily has two defenses available to her, truth or substantial truth and opinion, the onus then shifts to her to prove that the statement was true or it was an honest opinion based on proper material. So, do you think the Macrons stand a chance? Or should they drop the case against Candace? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll keep our finger on the pulse of this case and keep you updated as the updates arise. See you next time.